That morning, I picked up my hairbrush and it slipped right out of my hand. Not because it was wet, but because my hand couldn't feel it anymore. At first, I thought maybe I just slept on it wrong. But when it started happening day after day, I realized something inside me was slowly changing. If you've ever woken up with your hands numb, struggling to hold a cup or button your shirt, it might not just be age catching up. It might be your body's gentle way of whispering, "Please listen to me." If you're over 60 and want gentle tips to care for your hands, subscribe now. More wisdom is coming your way. Have you ever woken up in the morning and felt like your hand wasn't really yours anymore? Like it was still asleep, heavy, numb, maybe even tingling like tiny pins and needles dancing under your skin? You're not alone. I remember thinking it was just how I slept. Maybe I had curled my wrist in a strange way or leaned on my arm too long. But after a few days and then weeks, it kept happening. And I started to wonder, is something deeper going on? You see, as we grow older, our bodies speak to us in quieter ways, not with sharp pain or dramatic illness, but with subtle shifts, a numb hand, a stiff joint, a flutter in the chest. When we stand up to fast, these gentle signals are how our bodies say, "Hey, I'm still here. Please pay attention to me." One of those signals could be what's called carpal tunnel syndrome, a condition that sounds more complicated than it feels. Let me explain in a way we can all understand. Inside your wrist, there's a narrow passageway called the carpal tunnel. Running through that tunnel is a nerve called the median nerve. It's like a tiny messenger, carrying signals from your brain to your hand so you can move your fingers, hold a spoon, or write your name. But over time, that tunnel can begin to narrow, maybe due to swelling in the tissue, maybe from years of repetitive movements, or sometimes just from the natural changes that come with aging. And when the tunnel tightens, it starts to press against that nerve, not hard at first, just a little, enough to make your hand feel strange in the morning, like it's waking up slower than the rest of you. That sensation, numb hands after sleeping, tingling fingers after 60, or light weakness when holding small things could be your median nerve asking for a little more space, a little more care. Now, I want to say something very clearly here. This is not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't break something or fail to stretch enough. This is just one of those natural shifts in the body that often comes with aging hands, and it's more common than most of us realize. What matters is not guilt, but awareness, because the sooner we notice these signs, the gentler our healing can be. Let me tell you something a friend once said that really stayed with me. She said, "I used to be able to thread a needle without glasses. Now I struggle to hold a spoon without it slipping." And she wasn't saying it was sadness. She said it with wonder, with the kind of quiet realization that, yes, our bodies change, but our ability to care for them can change too. She started doing small things, eating more foods rich in potassium, stretching her hands before bed, and listening when her body whispered instead of waiting for it to scream. So today, I'm not here to give you medical advice. I'm not a doctor. I'm simply someone walking this path a little ahead of you, turning back to say, you're not imagining this. You don't have to ignore it. The tingling, the numbness, the small frustrations that show up in the little things, zipping up your jacket, peeling a banana, holding your grandchild's hand. They matter, and you matter. Your hands have held so much. They've written letters, made meals, wiped tears. They deserve to be heard and gently cared for. So let's begin with listening, not panic, not fear, just awareness. In the next part, I want to share a memory, not because it was painful, but because it reminded me how even the smallest moment can awaken something deep inside us. There's a morning I remember so clearly, not because something dramatic happened, but because something so small suddenly felt enormous. I was standing by the sink, trying to open a jar of honey. Nothing fancy, just my usual morning ritual. A cup of warm water, a little honey, maybe a slice of toast. But that morning, my hand slipped. The lid wouldn't turn. I tried again, slower, firmer, and the jar slid right out of my grasp, hit the edge of the counter, and cracked. Nothing broke, but something inside me did. I stood there for a moment, just staring at the honey dripping down the side of the jar, feeling this strange mix of frustration and sadness. It wasn't about the honey. It was about realizing my hands weren't what they used to be. The strength I took for granted was now asking for more care, more attention, more understanding. I didn't tell anyone that day. It felt silly, maybe even embarrassing, but in truth, that was the first time I understood what it means to grieve a little for what used to come so easily. Since then, I've dropped more things, fumbled more zippers, and occasionally struggled to sign my own name without my fingers shaking. But I've also learned this. Aging isn't just about losing strength. It's about learning a new kind of gentleness with our bodies and with ourselves. So if you've had moments like that, where something small made you stop, not because it hurt, but because it meant something, you're not alone. We're not broken. We're just being invited to pay closer attention. That moment with the jar wasn't just about my hands. It was a message, soft, subtle, from the body itself, a quiet way of saying, I've been whispering, will you listen now? That's when I began to notice other things, small, nearly invisible signs that my body had been trying to speak for a while. Sometimes the body doesn't shout, it whispers. It doesn't knock you down. It simply taps your shoulder and says, please, notice me. That's how it began for me. Not pain, not swelling, just a strange feeling, like little ants marching across my fingertips. When I woke up, a faint tingle, gone after a few minutes, so I ignored it. Then one morning, I poured myself a glass of water, and my finger slipped. The glass didn't break, but I felt something inside me crack a little, not physically, emotionally, because I realized my hands were no longer as steady as they used to be. At first, I blamed age. Of course my hands are weaker, I'm in my 60s, I told myself, but a quiet voice, deep down, whispered, what if this isn't just age? What if it's something I can help? You see, one of the first signs of carpal tunnel syndrome in older adults is not pain, but subtle numbness, or a light weakness that sneaks into your grip. It often starts in the early morning hours when your wrist has been still for a long time. The median nerve, remember that little messenger we talked about earlier, gets compressed during sleep, and that compression doesn't scream, it murmurs. Maybe your fingers feel swollen when you try to write a note. Maybe it takes a few seconds, longer to button your shirt. Maybe you drop things more often, a fork, your glasses case, a toothbrush. You tell yourself, oh well, these old hands. But sometimes your hands aren't asking for sympathy, they're asking for attention. I once spoke to a friend who used to quilt. Her hands had stitched love into every inch of fabric for decades. But one day, she told me I couldn't feel the thread. I had to watch it go through the fabric because my fingers could no longer trust the needle. She didn't cry when she said it, but I felt the grief in her silence, because it's not just about what the hands do, It's about what they allow us to feel, to hold, to share. So here's the gentle truth. If we listen to our hands early, we might never need medication, injections, or surgery. Yes, early signs of carpal tunnel can often be eased with small, daily kindnesses, less salt and sugar, a little more potassium, and hydration. Wrist stretches, a simple as pack at the end of the day, and most of all, awareness. This isn't about being afraid, it's about being present, because every time you catch a glass before it slips, or hold someone's hand without flinching, or write your name without hesitation, that's not just muscle memory, that's healing. That's your body saying, thank you for noticing. And so I ask you gently, have your hands been whispering lately? Maybe not loudly, maybe not every day, but enough to wonder. Then stay with me a little longer. In the next part, we'll explore simple ways to love your hands back, gently, naturally, with no pressure and no shame. They've served you all your life. Now, it's time to serve them back with softness. If your hands have been speaking to you lately, these 3 healthy habits may help you listen more gently. There was a time when I believed healing only came in big ways: hospitals, prescriptions, long instructions, and even longer bills. But with age, I've come to believe something else. Healing begins with the small things, the quiet, daily choices that whisper, "You matter. I still care for you." If your hands have been speaking to you lately with tingles, numbness, or just that strange heaviness in the morning, I want to share with you a few gentle things I've learned, not from textbooks, but from listening, because healing our aging hands isn't always about pills or surgery. Sometimes it's about breakfast. Yes, breakfast. 1. Eat with love. For your nerves, not just your hunger. Did you know that too much salt and sugar can cause your body to hold on to water, swelling tissues? That press down on the nerves in your wrists. But foods like bananas, avocados, and leafy greens are rich in potassium, a mineral that gently encourages your body to release what it no longer needs. Like a friend reminding you to let go of what weighs you down. Try starting your day with something warm and healing. A piece of avocado on toast, a banana with oatmeal, even a cup of herbal tea, and a moment of silence. 2. Hydrate like it's an act of devotion. We often drink water because we have to. But what if you turn that morning glass of warm water into something sacred? Hold it with both hands, take a deep breath, and before you sip, say quietly, even just in your mind, "Thank you, hands, for everything you've done, for still being here." It may sound small, but small things repeated with love become powerful medicine. 3. Stretch gently before sleep, after waking. You don't need a full routine, just 5 minutes of kindness. Before bed, sit quietly. Rub a little warm oil or lotion into your hands. Gently roll your wrists. Circle your fingers. Let your body know, we're done for the day. You can rest now. In the morning, before you even get out of bed, wiggle your fingers, open and close your hands. Let blood flow back in before your thoughts rush out. This is not just about circulation, it's about connection. 4. Cool the swelling with compassion. If you ever feel puffiness or tension in your wrists, take a soft cloth, wrap a few ice cubes, and place it on your wrist for just 5 to 10 minutes. But here's the secret. Don't do it while scrolling or watching something. Do it like you're holding your hand the way you comfort a child. Soft, present, loving. Because sometimes your hands just need to be held by someone who cares, and that someone is you. Healing after 60 isn't about returning to who you were. It's about honoring who you are now. It's about waking up and saying, I may be older, but I'm still listening, and I'm still worthy of care. Let these tiny acts, a piece of fruit, a stretch, a sip of water, a moment of stillness, become your way of saying to your body, I see you, I thank you, I choose you. Your hands have held so much. Now, let them feel held to. Once I started paying attention, I realized my hands weren't asking me for grand solutions. They just wanted kindness, consistency, a little moment each day. That said, you're still important to me, and so I began to shape small rituals, not routines, but quiet acts of care to begin and end each day in softness. There's something beautiful about rituals, not routines, not chores, but rituals, those small, repeated moments we choose to do with intention and care. And when it comes to our hands, these quiet, loyal companions that have carried so much, creating a gentle ritual of care can feel like a kind of healing prayer. Each morning, a new beginning for your hands. Before the world asks anything of you, before the phone rings, the dishes pile up, or the errands begin, give your hands a moment to simply wake up. One warm welcome. Rub your hands together slowly. Feel the warmth building between them. Then place your palms over your heart. Whisper, if you like, thank you for holding me through all my yesterdays. 2. Stretch with softness. Open and close your hands 5 times. Rotate your wrists slowly like turning a doorknob to a quiet place. 3. Water with awareness. Wash your hands in warm water. Let it flow over your skin as if it were washing away yesterday's tension. No rush, no scrubbing, just presence. 4. Moisturize with meaning as you apply lotion or oil. Imagine each stroke as a reminder you are still needed. You are still strong in your own way. Each evening, a quiet thank you for all they've done. Asterisk as the day winds down. Let your hands feel what they rarely get. Gratitude. Asterisk 1. Gentle compression. Wrap your hands in a warm, damp towel. Sit quietly for 3 to 5 minutes. Let the heat relax the tiny joints and tired tendons. Asterisk 2. Massage with breath. Use your thumb to massage the base of each finger. Inhale slowly. Exhale as you move to the next one. Let each breath say, asterisk, you did enough today. 3. Reflect and release. Write down one thing your hands helped you do today, even if it was as simple as holding a cup of tea. And if you dropped something, smile. You tried, and that's enough. These rituals aren't magic. They won't make your hands 20 years younger, but they will remind you that even in small movements, there's deep meaning, that even a tired body deserves reverence, that healing after 60 isn't always about fixing. Sometimes it's about finally being tender with ourselves. Over time, those rituals did more than soothe my skin or ease a little stiffness. They gave me something I hadn't expected, a deeper appreciation for what my hands had carried, for all the things they've done and all the memories they've held. I began to see them not just as body parts, but as quiet storytellers of my life. Have you ever wondered why the hands go numb even when the body seems still? I used to think it was just circulation or a pinch in the wrist. And yes, there's truth to that. But as I grew older, I started to feel something deeper. I realized that sometimes our hands carry more than muscle and bone. They carry memory, grief, unspoken tension. I remember once sitting alone at the kitchen table. I had just gotten off a phone call that left me feeling hollow. A small misunderstanding with someone I love, and when I looked down, I noticed I was clenching my hand, not out of anger, not even on purpose, just holding on. It made me think, how many times have our hands held pain we couldn't speak? The moment we wanted to say something but didn't. The weight of responsibility carried for years. The loss we never really let go of. And yet, our hands never stopped showing up. To cook, to write, to comfort. Even when tired. Even when unthanked. So maybe part of healing our hands isn't just stretching or eating better. Maybe it's also this, letting go of what no longer needs to be held. Take a moment with me now. Look at your hands. Gently open them and ask yourself, what have I been carrying along? You don't have to have the answer. Just asking is already part of the healing. Because as we age, it's not only the body that stiffens, it's the stories we haven't told. And sometimes, a numb hand is just the body's quiet way of saying, it's time to release. You've carried enough. So yes, stretch. Yes, hydrate. Yes, care for your body. But also, forgive. Soften. And allow yourself to unclench both inside and out. You are allowed to let go. Let's take one last breath together. Not a deep one. Just enough to soften your shoulders. Enough to unclench your jaw. Enough to remind your hands they don't need to hold on so tightly. You made it here. You listened. You stayed. And that, in itself, is a kind of healing. Sometimes we think healing comes in loud moments. Breakthroughs, tears, confessions. But more often, it arrives quietly. Like warmth spreading through your fingers. Like a whisper from your own body saying, you're still here. That's enough. Your hands may tremble. They may not grip like they used to, but they still reach, still carry, still comfort. They remember how to love, even when the rest of you forget how to be strong. So tonight, before you sleep, place your hands together, not in prayer, not for anyone else, just to feel them, to acknowledge all they've done. Let this be your ritual, not a fixing, but a finally saying thank you. And if you need a few words to carry with you, take these. I am not broken. I am becoming. My hands have held grief, love, and time, and they still choose gentleness. I don't need to hurry. I only need to notice. Healing isn't a race. It's a return. Let them echo in you, not to solve, but to soften. Thank you for letting me sit beside you today. Thank you for letting your hands be seen. We'll be here again, in stillness, in stories. In whispers, asters can tell then, move gently, love slowly, and rest. If this brought you comfort, consider subscribing, not for noise, but for more quiet moments like this.